All right, let's get started here. Thanks everyone for coming on in to Multifamily Monday, where we provide a market update with regards to the multifamily market in the Chicagoland area and beyond. I'm Vince Ewing here. We have some key team members and some very welcome and appreciated guests here. I want to start by passing the ball over to Jason York to share with us some development news in the Chicagoland area. Jason, do you have anything for us here?
Yeah. Let me just share my screen really quick. Thanks, Vince. All right. Wanted to share some updates on a development that is happening in Uptown neighborhood on the north side. It's at 4611 North Broadway. The development is called Platform 4611. It's being headed up by Free Market Ventures, which is led by Jack Buck, and it's also has a partner, John Buck Company. And this development is directly across the street from a $200 million CTA red line reconstruction. So it's definitely transit oriented. And this project, it was a retail space that was vacant for a while. As you can see, it was a City Sport and a couple other locations. This project is going to now be a 200 unit development. It's also going to have a mixed use component as well. It's going to have about 12,000 square feet of retail space on the bottom, but it's going to have 200 market rate apartments above with co-working space, office space, and a ton of amenities as well. So this is definitely something to keep our eye on. Was driving by over the weekend. They now have the cranes out at the site. So things are definitely moving forward. So we can keep our eye on this as we move ahead. Thanks, Vince.
No problem, and thank you kindly for that, Jason. I'll move forward with kind of an update on what we're seeing with regards to investors trying to get into the Chicago market. We saw ground broken at the Obama Library a couple weeks back, and since then we've been getting an influx of individuals attempting to break into our South Shore market here in Chicago, as well as Woodlawn and Hyde Park. Our team currently has a couple properties under contract in those markets, and we're seeing owners in those markets kind of get a renewed vigor for trying to see what their properties can do at this time. Obviously, the Obama Library has been something for several years coming down the pipeline with many news updates, but with that physical activity happening, with the ground being broken, President Obama coming in town, sticking that shovel into the ground, we're seeing a new influx of enthusiasm. Obviously, Chicago being, the only city in our top 10 population counts of metropolitan areas where the population is over 50% renters, we're definitely seeing those investors really wanting to get into this market already. Those renters are generally spending less than 20% of their income on rent, which leaves a lot of room for growth, and investors are seeing increased rents as a goal that they want to accomplish. Also, with that eviction moratorium being lifted, a lot of investors are, a little bit more optimistic about where things might go, getting into the market. And at the end of the summer, going into this, we're now in Q4, but Q3, we've seen an 11.5% increase in the usual transaction activity between January and October. So that's a positive outlook that we've had and been able to witness. And with that, I want to see if Kelly Rich, our director of acquisitions here, has any news for us in regards to opportunities that the multifamily investment advisors have coming down the pipeline right now.
I do. Thank you. Thank you for the intro, Vince. I do have an update on some investment opportunities with the multifamily investment advisors. First, I want to talk about is the West Chatham portfolio. It's a mixed use portfolio of residential and office/retail tenants totaling 55 units, all within 3 contiguous buildings. The retail office tenants are both internet and COVID proof. The buildings consist of they're fully occupied buildings under long-term ownership. The current owner has pride in ownership. As such, the units are well maintained. This asset does present a light value add opportunity with the opportunity to convert some of the bedrooms to 2 bedrooms. We're offering that portfolio at $3,150,000. So if you have interest in that, reach out to us definitely. We also have an opportunity to pick up 22 units in Calumet Park. Calumet Park, for those not familiar with it, is a suburb just south of Chicago. It's located about 25 minutes south of downtown Chicago. The package is 2 blocks from I-57 Expressway. It consists of 2 buildings on the same block, making that very well easy to maintain. The 16 units in the portfolio are new gut rehabs, very well maintained buildings renovated in 2015 and 2021. It's offering an 8.3 blended cap rate between the two and per unit price of $62,000. So that asset is being offered at $1,372,500. And lastly, I want to talk about an 8-unit multifamily property located in the historic Bronzeville neighborhood of Chicago. It features remodeled luxury condo quality units and a stabilized tenant base. It's a turnkey investment opportunity with below market rents. There's an attractive unit mix. There's 8 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units, condo quality finishes with in-unit laundry, full stainless steel appliance packages. Tenants pay all utilities except water. There are individual furnaces, central AC, and hot water heaters. In addition, there's 8 secured parking spaces. So definitely reach out to us for more information on these opportunities and more. We can be reached at www.chicagomultifamilyinvestments.com. Also at investment@kwcommercial.com, and on the phone 312-863-8990. I'll be adding this contact information in the chat. Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Kelly. I want to, again, send out my appreciation for our guests here, our recurring and new guests here on Multifamily Monday. We're going to wrap it up here with a part 2 of the Property Tax Appeal Workshop hosted by the Chicago Association of Realtors a couple months back. We are on the tail end of our assessment, so very relevant material. We played the first part of that last week, and we had a couple key team members missing because we did have a multifamily investment advisors kind of meeting that occurred during the time of this webinar. But if it is 12 p.m. on Monday, every Monday, you'll find the multifamily investment advisors here from KW Commercial, Multifamily Monday. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the webinar.
People may join late. And as you're looking for that,
Make sure this plays here.
let me scroll through a couple more questions that we had. People are asking, is the video going to be sent to us? I will answer that question. We are recording this. We're not sending the video directly to people, but you'll find it on the member site. And the slide presentation, we are not sending directly to participants. But again, if you have access to the video, you will have access to the slide presentation in full on the members only site. I think in retrospect, maybe we should have broadcast simultaneously on Facebook Live. It seems like there's a lot of people in today's webinar, and we want to make sure that good information gets out there.
And
okay.
Here's the information, Chris, just letting you know,
Sure.
I did share my screen again, and this is the contact information. Again, if you want to join the texting service, you're going to text the 474747 and the word easy join. And if you want to file from your mobile phone, same phone number and the word file, F-I-L-E.
Perfect. And just leave that up for a few minutes if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. We're going to answer a couple more questions. Somebody said, did I read it correctly? You review comparable sales 3 years back. If so, why?
Because at the Board of Review, per our statute, 3 years are most current. So of course, if you have several sales that have occurred this year, those are the most recent trend in the area, we're going to do so. There are certain areas that may not have a lot of sales data, especially in some of, just say, smaller condo associations and things of that sort. You may not have a lot of sales that have occurred, within that current year. So for us at the board, recent sales are within a 3-year basis. And then we're able to also see how those sales have fluctuated. 3 years ago, sales may have been at 250,000, but now here more recently, the sales may be down to the 175 range. So that means that there is some trend that is going on in that community, and we can kind of see how that fluctuates.
All right, one question. Is the Board of Appeals available for those who did not initially appeal, or I just lost it, excuse me. I think it was saying, is the Board of Appeals available for those who did not initially appeal, or only as a second step? Dana, I'll give you a breather because you've been talking a lot. And if you don't mind, I'll answer that for you in my post-board review days. You can start with the Board of Review, but I believe Dana discussed this earlier. You should always exhaust every avenue available to you. So you should go to the sessions office expecting a no, but maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised with a yes. Then you go to the Board of Review. You could do either or, you could do both. But we would encourage you to exhaust every form available, because as Dana said earlier, some people have gone to the assessor's office, maybe got some minor relief from the assessor, and then the Board of Review actually relieved them even more. So that answers that question. Then you got a question down here. Can I start with the Board of Review, or do I have to start somewhere else? I think I just answered that. I'm in Hyde Park Township. So Dana, I'm not sure if you're the best expert on this, but a lot of people get confused by Hyde Park, the neighborhood, and Hyde Park Township. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So Hyde Park is not just 53rd, 55th in that area. Hyde Park is actually one of the largest townships in Cook County. And Hyde Park can range all the way to like 107th and Cottage Grove, all the way a little west, maybe to about Wentworth is the cutoff as far west. But Hyde Park can go all the way east to the lake. So Hyde Park is very large. So don't be confused about, what the township says. If you look at the top of your tax bill and you see Hyde Park Township, that is the township that, that you are in. And if you're ever in doubt and you don't have your tax bill available, you can always go to the assessor's office and type in your PIN number or your address, and they'll let you know what township you're in, as well as our website on the Board of Review.
One thing I'll also say is that for those of you all that live in the city proper, township government is not something we're familiar with. But in the suburbs, and especially in downstate Illinois, township government is another layer of government that's between the city municipal level and the county level. So in your south suburbs, you'll see the township government. One of the things that they take upon themselves is that they have a lot of food pantry services. Sometimes there's a fire department for your unincorporated areas or small towns within your area that do not have a fire service. So those are some of the common areas of government you'll see at the township level. But in the city of Chicago, we do not exercise, nor do we have township government. So that might be one reason why you might be a little confused. For senior exemptions, do both homeowners need to be 65 plus or just one? So my mom and dad, let's say one is 65, the other one is 63. So let's say situation A, both names are on the deed. Let's say situation B, only one name is on the deed. Can you talk about that situation?
Yes. So with the senior exemption, if both people are on the deed and one of them is 65 years of age, you can take advantage of that exemption. If there is only one person on the deed and they are not 65, then you cannot take advantage of that exemption until that person who is on the deed is of age. But one person of age is all you need.
Okay. I have a question from a young lady who works with me, so I want to make sure I don't get beat up next time we're in the office next week or next month. She says, when searching for comps to appeal, what is the most overlooked item? Is there anything that you've noticed that people over the years don't really take into effect or take into account when they're doing comps?
Some people don't take into account age. Sometimes that can be an issue. You know, you'll see the subject property is this age, you know, and something is 50 years older or 50 years younger. That's one thing that I've seen. And also too, land value. Now, in the city of Chicago, most of the lots are standard sizes, but when you get into some of the suburban areas, different people may have more land. And of course, that land has value. So in some cases, you know, your property may have a very large amount of land. And when you're comparing that to a property that has less, their price per square foot may be less, but that land value is going to bump you up more because you have more land that you own. So for the most part, I've mostly seen age and sometimes square footage, especially some taxpayers, you know, they don't know about the square footage differences. And for us, as far as square footage, we try to stay within a 500 square foot difference. So if your property is 2,000 square feet, we don't want anything more than 2,500 or 1,500. You know, we want to kind of stay as close to possible as that range.
Okay, here's one. When you have condo buildings, you know, especially your bigger condos where you have 100 or hundreds of units, when finding comps to submit, when you're filing a condo review, do we need to all file together or do we need to file separately? How does that work?
Okay, so with condominiums, most of the time, if it's a big building that has hundreds of units, you all usually have an attorney. Most of the time, the condo association will file a contract with an attorney with the firm, and they usually do it for the triennial. Now, if your building does not have an attorney, yes, you can all file together. That is an option. The president of the townhome association, they can file on behalf of all of the homeowners. Each homeowner that would like for them to appeal would have to give them permission. So that would basically be a simple affidavit to say, hey, I am the homeowner of unit such and such in this building, and I give the president the right to file on my behalf. Or the other option is for you to file alone as an individual. If no one in your entire building wants to appeal their taxes and you want to, you have that right. And you can be the only person out of 1,000 unit building that filed an appeal. And you would be the only person in that 1,000 unit building to get a reduction if we see that one is due. So you can file with an attorney, you can file as an association, or you can file as a single filer. All of these are okay in the world of condos.
And in condos, this is not a question posted, but you talked a little earlier about you take a lot into consideration. So like, let's say a downtown condo that has an east view towards the lake, or a condo that's on the 25th floor versus the 5th floor. How do those things really factor out? Like, how do you put a value on lake view, or do you put a value on higher floors versus lower floors?
Well, the value is going to be higher because guess what? People are going to pay more money to be in that penthouse looking at the lake rather than to look at another building. So all of that is factored into the price. So if you stay on the second floor of a building and you're facing west, your percentage of ownership of the building is going to be less and the selling price is going to be less. But if you have a penthouse with a view of the lake, you have more square footage, your percentage is going to be much higher, and what you purchased the property for is going to be higher. So all of those things are factored in when each unit is given its percentage of ownership and selling price.
And since you have your slide presentation up, we have a question. Can you go over the tax calculation again for the state equalizer? Do you
Yes.
mind sliding back to that slide and maybe just give us a quick 45-second synopsis on that whole state equalizer, which can be confusing.
So you want me to do the calculation tax bill or the tax rates?
Let's do tax bill. I think that's what most people are concerned about. Let's do tax.
Okay, no problem. 1 second. Okay, so this is the slide about calculating the tax bill. Now, again, in this calculation, the property is worth $250,000. Residential properties are assessed at 10%, which is $25,000. All right. Now, the state equalizer. This is done totally separate from us at the Board of Review. We do not have anything to do with that state equalizer. It's done downstate. They figure out how to equalize from the city and all of the other parts of Illinois, because sometimes people forget it's not just all about us. It's about the entire state as a total. So we have to have that equalizer. Then when you get down to, once you have that multiplication, this gives you the equalized assessed value of the property. This is the number that you begin to take and deduct your exemptions from. So again, the homeowner's exemption, this is an increase of $10,000 in assessed value. It used to be $7,000 in prior years, but that number has been bumped up, which is more beneficial to the taxpayers. So that number is increased. If you were a senior, whatever deduction you were getting for that exemption will be calculated here. I don't really have a solid number amount for the senior exemption or senior freezes because those can fluctuate, especially the freeze based on your income. So in this example, I just use basically a homeowner who can only get that exemption. Then you go down to that calculation will give you your adjusted equalized assessed value. From here, we get into those tax rates, which we talked about. You remember Park Forest was one of the higher ones with 35%. And then again, the city with about 6.8%. So this is where you would input whatever your tax rate, what that would be to come up with the value. So in this made up township here, for this example, a person who owned a $250,000 home in this particular made up township would be paying about $6,200 a year for their tax bill. And of course, you know, you get 2 tax bills, so that would be split up almost evenly, but the first installment is a little more because it's a 55% estimate.
Perfect. One question we have about filing an appeal, excuse me, when you file your appeal, should you request a hearing? Can you talk about, you know, if you got a standalone home on the south side, that's a bungalow or just a regular frame house, when should you or should you not request a hearing, and why is a hearing needed?
Okay, so for the hearings, currently, we're not planning to have hearings right now unless things change. Well, in-person hearings. Let me make that clear, in-person hearings. Now, we may have to switch to a format like this, a Zoom outreach between a taxpayer or a phone call type of outreach. I'm sorry, not outreach, but hearing. So in the case of a hearing, I say if this is just a regular appeal and you just feel that you're being overassessed, you don't need a hearing. For a hearing, this would be extenuating circumstances where you've been having an ongoing issue about, if just say you lived in an airport fly zone or something, and you were having damage to your property, or you were having continuous flood issues or fire issues, you were in a floodplain, something that was a very serious issue that you really think you need to articulate, you know, what's going on, that's the only time I would say that you need a hearing. But if you just feel you're overassessed and you're paying too much in taxes, no need to do a hearing. We'll do all the work for you.
Perfect. Dana, we have you to about 2:15, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to ask a few more questions, but I don't want to exhaust my friend over here. But these are some great questions, and we want to make sure that you all get the information that you need. one question we have is about having two PIN numbers. There's some people that have two PIN numbers, maybe on one structure. I think that would be odd. But in the case of a person that may have one structure in the lot right next door to them, and they have two PIN numbers, how should you go about filing for two PIN numbers, or do you only file for one PIN and then you file for the other PIN?
So you're going to file for both. There are cases where one property has two PINs. That can mean that that property is on two separate lots. So one half of the house is on one lot, the other half of the house is on another lot. So you may have two PIN numbers. In that case, you want to appeal on both PIN numbers all the time, because you don't want to appeal on one half of your house and not the other. Now, in the case that you have a side lot, I would tell you to appeal on that as well. Even though it's a side lot, we can still look at the land price value to see if that is even with the other lots on the block. So I encourage you to file on all of them. If you're using a paper form, over to the side, I can go to that form really quick just to show you guys.
No problem.
What
There's one question while you're looking for that. They said if you're a senior and a homeowner, you get both deductions. I believe you said earlier you could get up to 4 deductions in any combination. If you're a disabled veteran, homeowner, you can get up to 4 exemptions.
Yes, you can get up to 4 exemptions. And if they're a senior, they can have a homeowner's exemption, a senior exemption, and a senior freeze exemption. And if they're a disabled person, they can have a disabled person exemption. So let me share this screen really quick to go back to the people who have 2 PIN numbers. So if you are filling out a complaint form for 2 PIN numbers, you see it over on this side where it says, do not list complaints below. And it has 5 lines listed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You would put your second PIN number on line number 1, okay? Over to the middle section where it says location and identification of real estate, your PIN number would go in this section where it says permanent index number. So the first PIN would go here, the second PIN would go on line 1.
Okay, and one person just commented to me, this is common, especially for downtown condos, because you may have a separate PIN for a parking space.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind too, people, that it's the same situation. But if you have deeded owned parking, then you could appeal on that parking space. I think I just saw the most expensive parking space in the world just sold for almost $1 million in Hong Kong. Yeah. So when people complain about $70,000 parking spaces here in Chicago, just tell them be glad you're not in Hong Kong. We have a person asking about 4 flats and 3 flats. 3 are above ground. The 4th or 1 is below ground, below grade. Do you include that square footage for the basement apartments, since it is actual living area?
We don't. If it's below grade, it's below grade.
Understood. Now, you said something earlier about individuals can appeal for themselves. Now, a business entity needs to have a lawyer. So I'm not a big landlord. I'm not 5,000 units. I'm 3 units. I own a 3 flat, and I used to live in the 3 flat. I moved out, and people warned me about becoming an LLC. So if a little old lady falls and breaks her neck in front of my apartment, she can't sue and get everything from me. So if I set up an LLC where it's just me as an individual, am I considered a business now, or yes. I am?
Yes. So anytime it's in an LLC, incorporated, anything of that, any type of business entity, you must have an attorney. Only if it's under your name, Christopher Anderson, then you can file. But once you cross over and put it into a LLC, you must have an attorney to file on your behalf.
Now here's a good question that it still confuses me at times. The current year is 2020, and we just paid a property tax bill, correct? A couple of weeks ago for most of us that are escrow. Explain, what did we just pay? As property taxes are billed in arrears. What did we just pay, and what are we paying next?
Great question. People always get confused about that. So as Chris said, you're paying your taxes 1 year in arrears. So right here in 2020, you're paying for your 2019 taxes. So with you all appealing this year, you're getting a head start on your taxes that are going to be payable in 2021.
Okay. Does it make sense to apply for property tax appeal now if I've already applied before? I ask because it's likely property values have gone up. So doesn't it make sense it may go up versus go down? So I think what the person is asking here is, if my value has gone up, then my property taxes will probably go up as well. Why should I appeal, especially like we talked about earlier in the South Shore area, where you're just seeing prices boom and people are houses that you wanted for 200,000 now going for 300,000. Is there any value in appealing when you see a fast shooting market?
Yes, I tell people to still appeal every year because at least you're keeping it in check. If there is any room for movement, downward movement, you want to take advantage of that every year. Even if it is a change of $1,000 in value, you know what I mean? That's still something. So I encourage you to do it regardless, because if you don't appeal, it's definitely going to continue to go up. So if you do nothing, it's going to shoot up. If you do something, you can kind of keep it in balance to some sort.
Gotcha. Now, here's a question. I was told a few years ago by the Board of Review that if a property is demolished as part of a demo plus new construction, there's no basis for reducing the value. Is that true?
Could you say it one more time, Chris?
I was told a few years ago by the Board of Review that if a property is demolished, so you level the property as part of a demolition, but you plan to do new construction, so it's a demo plus new construction, there's no basis for reducing the value.
Well, if there was a building erect when the property was first assessed, then you want to file an appeal to let us know that, hey, this building is no longer here. It's vacant land. I plan on, building something, but right now it's vacant land, because there's a big difference between a building being on a piece of land and nothing being there. So
and can you talk a little bit? I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. Say, was I loud enough?
Yeah, you were. Keep going. I'm sorry, Dana.
No, so I was just saying that, if I encourage you to do it regardless, to go ahead and file, because it's a building versus vacant land. So.
And what about vacancies? Can you talk a little bit about vacancies, especially those that are apartment owners? And what are you looking for vacancy? Does a vacancy mean truly that you don't have anybody in there, or does a vacancy mean the person's not paying rent? What is a vacancy as it relates to the Board of Review? So in this age of COVID, I come in and I tell you, one apartment I couldn't rent out for 6 months. The other apartment, I had somebody in there, but they only paid 3 months of rent out the whole year. What are you all willing to factor in as a vacancy and give me the benefit of the doubt for reducing my property tax bill?
Okay, so being that this is all new, we're still working on some things, and we're still waiting for things to trickle down from us, from the commissioners and the chief deputy of the board. But historically, at the Board of Review, when we're looking at vacancy, we're looking at the property being vacant, like there is no one in the property. Now, with this COVID thing, I'm not sure how we may approach that. Like I say, final decision has not been made. But for one thing, for vacancy, if you have a 3-flat, we look at that as a family building, kind of. So we're not going to give you vacancy for 3 units or 4 units. Now, when you get into a 6 units or more, that's when we start to look at vacancy. So say you have a 6 unit, you have 2 vacant, and you have 2 people who aren't paying rent. We would at least at this point give you consideration for those 2 units that are vacant. And we would want to see pictures that they were vacant, or if you're renovating these units to get them up to par, we would want to see that. And also the fact that you're trying to lease them. So if you had a for sale sign in there, or you had an MLS listing to show that you were trying to rent these properties, all of those things could be used in a vacancy claim.
And just want to make sure I'm clear on this. You have to be the legal owner to apply for a homeowner's exemption, correct?
Yes, you have to be on the deed.
You have to
So
be on
when
the
the
deed.
deed is pulled up and we don't see your name, they're going to deny your exemption claim.
So if you're a senior you have to be on the deed to get the senior exemption.
Correct. So say for instance, you have your parents came to live with you. And you know, they've been living there for the past couple years, they've sold their home, but you are the owner and you're the only one on the deed. Even though parents are there, they're not legal owners to the property. So therefore, you cannot get that senior exemption because your parents have come to live with you and they're on a fixed income.
Okay, perfect. We're trying to get through as many questions as possible. So one question here that I think we've answered, I thought if a tenant is responsible for the tax bill, they can also get a homeowner's exemption. I don't know of any situation where the tenant will be responsible for the tax bill, because then they would have to be on the deed, and then that means they're the actual owner. But you know, the homeowner exemption has to match whoever the deeded party is. Client lives in a 3-story condo with 6 units. Second floor unit is next to the Chicago City train. This is the only unit which has a window next to the train track in the building. How do you address this in the appeal? So that one person says that my property should be worth a little bit less because I have what others may think is an amenity, I think is a nuisance. I have a train that's coming by my window and keeping me up at night, waking up my baby, rattling my unit. Will something like that factor into a possible appeal?
I mean, the client can state that as a reason, but you know, that with the condo, you have your percentages of ownership, and it's kind of hard to kind of deviate from that when you're dealing with that binding agreement. And like I say, I don't think that there'll be much of a reduction because of the train.
I think we asked this before. Did somebody must first appeal with the assessor, then to the board of review? That is not the case. You should appeal with the assessor and the board of review, but you do not have to appeal with either. You don't have to appeal. You should appeal with both, or either or.
Right, and it's not a prerequisite to file with the assessor's office in order to file with us. So if you miss that deadline, you can still come to us and we'll handle the appeal.
One of my favorite realtors asked a question. So any township can file an appeal now, or is it closed? I think you said earlier 3 of your townships are currently closed. I think there's 36 townships in Cook County.
Yes.
So that means that you can still apply for 33 other townships, correct?
Correct. So currently, these are the townships that are currently closed. We've got Oak Park, River Forest, and Riverside. So these townships, they're no longer accepting any appeals. Everything else is open at the board of review level. So if you have Hyde Park, Lake, Thornton, Lyons, Norwood Park, Orland, South Chicago, West Chicago, North Chicago. I mean, everything else is completely open except for these 3 that you see on the screen here now.
Another one of my favorite realtors. For buyers who would be owner occupiers to appeal a tax rate with no homeowner exemption in order to qualify for the home with their lender during the home buying process. So again, is there any way for buyers who would be owner occupiers, so somebody's looking to purchase a home, is there any way for them to appeal, I guess, prior to actually making the purchase, since there is no homeowner exemption, in order to qualify for the home with their lender during the home buying process?
No, they cannot, because they're not the owner. They have no, I mean, actually, anyone can appeal on a property. So if they want to appeal that property, they can, but you have no stake in this property. And if you do get a reduction, the seller is going to get the benefit of that reduction. So pretty much no, you just have to wait until you're the actual owner. And then at that point, you can get your exemptions. Now, also too, the other thing to think about, say you purchase right now, today, September 2nd, you close on your property. There are no exemptions on here. You're just at full value and the property is looked at as an income property. You as the owner are going to have to wait until January 1st of 2021 to apply for your exemption. It's nothing that you can do from September until December. You just have to bite the bullet, and then in January 1st, you can go to the assessor's office and you can file at least for your homeowner's exemption, because this would be your primary residence.
Somebody asked the question, so is an LLC considered a commercial property? We talked about that. Would it be beneficial to put the property in a trust? That's a question where Dana and I, neither one of us are lawyers. We just play one on TV every now and then. I would definitely say that's a question that you'll need to discuss with an attorney that neither one of us could give an answer to you today. You said earlier, Dana, that for comparables, you're looking for properties within the square footage of around 500 square feet. So if I have a 2,000 square foot home, I could put down as a comparable a home that's 1,500 square feet or 2,500 square feet. Is that correct? You're on mute, Dana.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. So you can definitely do that. That is within the parameters. Now,
Perfect.
when you get into properties, just say you may have a property that's 10,000 square feet. When we're talking about larger properties, then we can kind of expand that number from 500 to about 1,000 square feet. So we can go from 1,000 to 1,500 depending on how large the property is. But when we're dealing with, you know, more of the standard size homes between, you know, 2,000, 2,500 square feet, we want to stay within that 500 range.
And so, and square feet only applies to living area, correct? So let's say somebody has a lot next door or a bigger yard. You don't count that. You only care about square footage for comparison purposes for the actual structure, the actual dwelling.
Yes, the living square footage.
Perfect. Well, with that, we're almost at 2:15. Dana, I just wanted to see if you have any last words to give our realtor community. And also, if somebody was interested in having you come out virtually or in person when the world returns to normal and wanted to have this presentation for their block club, for their church, for their for any other group they may be affiliated with, how does that work? So give us some last minute words of wisdom and how people can reach out to you. And is it possible to have you present to other groups of people other than realtors?
Yes. Well, as you know, before the pandemic, I was heavy in the community, going all over the county, to churches, to non-for-profit organizations, to alderman's office, senator's offices. I go everywhere that is needed. So if you want to contact me, you can, as you see, I shared my screen here. You can send an email to bor district3@info.cookcountyil.gov. If you send an email there, I'll be able to see it. I check these emails daily. So I will respond within 24 to 48 hours to help to set something up. And again, if you all want to call us, our number is 312-603-5540. And again, Commissioner Rogers is dedicated to making sure everyone pays their fair share and educating as many people as possible on the process. So as long as I'm getting this information out and I can help at least one person, I've done my job. So again, this is my contact information. I want to thank you, Christopher, and all of your associates for allowing me to once again speak with you guys and all of your realtors.
Well, people wanted you to come out more often last year, but I don't want to take up all your time. But with COVID, there may be a need to have you come out again. Hopefully we could host you again to talk about some things as relates to vacancy. But thank you for your time today, Dana. Thank you all, the over 100 people that joined today's seminar on property tax appeals. Definitely go back and review the information. There's a lot to take in. Dana's been doing this for 10 years, and she gave you 10 years worth of knowledge in 1 hour or 1 hour plus. But feel free to go back on the member page and do reach out to Dana to have her come and speak at any of your functions, social groups, or just a gathering where people could take advantage of this information. So with that, I believe we close for the day. On behalf of Sarah Ware, the chairman of the Public Policy Committee, Michelle Mills Clement, our CEO, and our president, Mr. Maurice Hampton, thank you all and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.